Hey, Priscilla, welcome to episode 98.
Hi, Dean. Thank you for having me here.
Oh my God, 98 episodes. Crazy. Okay, so before we jump into the real questions, I'm going to be blunt because it's episode 98 and I can do what I want. Uh, what the hell is a fractional CMO?
I get that question a lot. So, a fractional CMO, first of all, Chief Marketing Officer, because a lot of
Hmm.
people don't even know what CMO stands for, is a part-time marketing leader. So, typically, you have a person who's leading the marketing team, and in the fractional CMO case, it's a person who comes on a temporary basis for the most part, working on a part-time basis, and has multiple clients that they're working with. And
Okay.
this is very helpful for companies who maybe can't afford a full-time marketing leader, but still want the expertise of someone with a lot of experience. Companies who have a temporary gap to fill, so their marketing leader maybe left very suddenly, or hiring is taking too long, and they want to place someone in the
Hmm.
spot for the time being.
Okay. Then let's get into our typical hypothetical for this podcast. You've just started. It's day one of a brand new client engagement with a brand new client. So they don't know you very well. You don't know them very much. Today's day one. From the fractional CMO's point of view, on day one starting, what do the first 90 days usually involve? What do they look like?
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. I would say, the first month is really about understanding the situation. So
Hmm.
doing a thermometer reading, this could be interviewing people within the company, interviewing clients. This could be digging into data, into, Google Analytics, into the CRM, really just trying to understand what's working, what's not, where are the gaps. And then month two is about putting together a strategic plan based on the facts, right? Based on the data that we've uncovered in month one. So this strategic plan, I like to call really a roadmap for the rest of the engagement. Really understanding who's going to be responsible for what are the deadlines, and so on. What tech needs are going to be required, what tools we're going to be using. And then in month three, it's really about implementation. So we're going to put in place all of the things that we've identified need to be done in month two in that plan, and really take it down into a more tactical um, process. So in this execution phase, I really like working with Kanban. So a lot of people aren't familiar with the Kanban, but it's something that was typically used in software development to help teams work more collaboratively and transparently. And I think it works super well in marketing. And so we work with weekly sprints. Or even daily sprints, depending on the company and the project. But really, yeah, making the tasks more clear, priorities more clear, and helping to facilitate, yeah, a very productive and flowing team using the Kanban system. Um, and then, of course, doing retrospectives and feedback, throughout the process, or making it as iterative as possible in the execution phase.
All right. And also, yeah, I came out of software my whole career. And even today, with just my writing business, everything's on a Kanban board, like literally everything.
Amazing,
There's yeah,
great tool. Yeah.
yeah, and not only that, but once Apple in their reminders app, like in their last update, allowed Kanban boards, it's been like a game changer. It's been great.
You
Don't
know
have to
it,
use a
yeah.
third party app anymore. Okay, and I want to switch and ask Catherine the same question, but before I do, like tell folks a little bit about you, Priscilla.
Sure. So I was born in Montreal, raised in Florida. I've been between Barcelona and Mexico the last years. My entire career has really been in marketing and sales in the tech space. I had always been a marketing leader and then decided a couple years back to go freelance. So that's when I
Mhm.
became a fractional CMO. And yeah, I've been supporting teams. Working for companies in the impact space. So in company, this is the broad definition, right? Impact. So companies that are bringing good to the planet in some way, shape, or form, the planet or the people inhabiting the planet. Um, and so I have clients in the coaching space, renewable energy space, and so on and so forth. But yeah, all doing good things. And yeah, I've been supporting them in this fractional capacity. and enjoying it very much.
Right on. Hi, Catherine.
Hi,
Good afternoon.
good
Uh,
afternoon.
and so, Catherine, let's start with the same question, but first, let folks know a little bit about you, and then I want to change the question a tiny little bit. What problems do you typically see with a new client and their business and their marketing in the first 90 days when you first get started?
Okay, so first let me introduce myself. I'm
Hmm.
Catherine Stenson. I'm based in London. I was born in Dublin. I've lived in London now for 30 years, and I've worked for most of that time in technology, marketing, software, SaaS, and more lately as a fractional CMO. So I work mostly in edtech and HR tech. I work with clients that vary from startups to established companies looking to scale.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, companies who don't need a full time marketing leader, but who get great value out of having access to top tier talent who
Right.
can give them a little kind of spurt of perspective, great experience. Often, the network that a fractional CMO brings has a terrific value as well. So that's really like been my focus for the last 2 years, been a fractional CMO, which I love.
And what problems do you normally see when you start a new engagement?
Okay, I think they kind of split into two.
Mm.
In the SaaS world, I think what I'm usually brought in to address, it's a company that's moving from startup to scale up. So typically that company needs to do what is called in the SaaS world to prove product market fit.
Right.
Another way of thinking about that is to be moving your customers from free to fee. So, what your investors, or even if you're bootstrapping, you need to prove the product market fit. It's about not making or identifying clients who will use your product once. It's finding the clients who want to keep using the product, who will help you iterate on that cycle as you move from, like, often an MVP, a
Right.
minimum viable
Hmm.
product, which is very often what people coming to market with. So that's scenario one. A company is looking to establish product market fit. Scenario two that I've been involved in is a company that's more established, but a company that's sort of mid-range company. Maybe their growth has stagnated. Very often they'll have lost a marketing leader either through a lack of cultural fit, or somebody is moving on, and they just don't have the time in their current setup to spend 6 months finding the replacement full-time CMO. So in those instances, fractional CMO can be incredibly valuable because you can hit the ground running with a seasoned expert
Right.
who has industry experience. And so that's scenario two. You're fitting in a gap that's kind of been an unexpected situation for a company. And very often in those situations, I often get to help with the hire of the replacement CMO as well. So that's another interesting dynamic.
Well, okay, so let's switch out of the CMO role for a second. So now imagine that you're the CEO of this company, right? You probably had to get some kind of approval from like a board or investors or just like your alter ego to allocate spend for a year-long fractional CMO engagement. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, what should you be doing and what should you stop doing as CEO to sort of maximize the value from that CMO?
That's a great question. And I think it's something that CEOs definitely benefit from thinking about before the fractional CEO comes through the door.
Hmm.
So, the advice that I would give to any CEO who's contemplating hiring a fractional CMO would probably start with getting clear on the goals, getting clear on the expectations you have for the fractional CMO is of the utmost importance. Because if you're not clear before the person walks in, chances are you will, somewhere not too far into the engagement, start to feel a little bit frustrated, let down, or all of the above. So, clarity around your goals and objectives as a business and how they map to marketing is number one priority. The second thing is, I think, a commitment to solid, regular communication. Communication to your fractional CMO, but also communication about the fractional CMO's objectives in the business to your other leaders and indeed to any incumbent marketing team, because they need to feel empowered and have the authority from day one when they're arriving into that engagement. The third thing that the CEO can do is to be collaborative. So to facilitate the introductions to the other leaders, usually sales, product, customer success. Those are the roles, and in finance, actually, of course, these are the roles or the departmental functions that tend to be highly relevant to marketing. The other thing that I think is key is measurement. Getting a set of metrics that you agree with the fractional CMO on arrival, that you understand the system of how they've been measured, and that you plan for regular review of those metrics, because we don't always get them right. Sometimes they need a bit of tweaking.
Right.
But then communicating what those metrics are back to your board, who have given you the the go ahead to invest in that fractional CMO. I think those are the real things. So clarity of goals and alignment to the business purpose, communication, collaboration with the other departmental leaders, and metrics. I think just, for the purpose of our conversation today, I think those four things, those four takeaways would be my recommended steps for any CEO ahead of the engagement process.
Priscilla, let me invert that question a tiny bit. Like you've, multiple clients over the years, like talked to lots of other fractional CMOs. How do companies that bring in a fractional CMO, either the CEO or the company itself, how do they waste the money that they're spending? Like, what did they keep doing that they should have stopped doing once the fractional CMO came in, or what did they not do, or what did they not understand, and they ended up not getting, it's basically they just wasted some or all of the money that they spent.
Yeah, I think there are many ways to waste
Yeah.
money, unfortunately. One of them is just being too scared to try new things. So the world of marketing is changing so rapidly, and it's really important to have what I like to call a innovation reserves budget to try new things, because just doing the status quo, I mean, you could end up just diverting funds into the wrong areas that are not up to date with your audience. So it's really important to not be scared to try new things, even if it's just investing a small portion of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other ways that I've seen is not doing clear retrospective. So I think looking back at performance on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, and really understanding what worked and what didn't, not just from an anecdotal basis, but actually looking at the data, is so important, and it's really not done enough. So I know it's really easy to just keep going on automatic and not take these moments to really pause and look back, but it's so important to do so. It might seem like a waste of time, but it's really not, because it will end up saving so much money at the end of the day.
Okay, so let's imagine I'm the CEO. I'm your client, right? And I've got some people in marketing. Like there's some staffers there, maybe some junior people or some mid-level people. Maybe along the way, if I'm not like a fresh out of the oven startup, but like a little bit more stuff, there's been supervision and maybe even management of that marketing team that I have there, right? But probably no leadership at this point, not yet. Right? Most likely the fractional CMO is the first any kind of CMO that's been in the organization, let's say. I'm looking at that team or those staffers today, and I'm trying to think about what that team or those staffers are going to be like a year from now, when the official engagement with this CMO is done, right? How should that team look or be different or better at the end of a year than they are today on day one of this fractional CMO kicking off? Priscilla.
Well, I hope that they've grown as professionals,
Mm-hmm.
and they're continuing to feel inspired. So I think one of the things that I believe is most important is speaking with each team member and understanding what their professional and personal goals are, right? Where do they want to be in 1 year from now? And I think that the professional development portion of a chief marketing officer role is really important. You want to, make your team feel great and empower them to get to be where they want to be. So I think that's the first step, is understanding from an individual perspective where they want to be a year from then. And as a leader, if that individual is at that place a year from now, then you've succeeded.
Priscilla, I'm sorry, Catherine, what do you think? Like, Catherine, what about as a team? Like, there might only be like 3 or 4 people on that team. There might only be one person, right? As a team, what's that team going to be like a year from now? Bigger, smaller, different mix of internal, external? Like, what typically do you find?
I I like to think that I leave the team in a better place, having exited any engagement, and that's always my personal goal. And I think most CEOs are very pleased to know that that is something that I care deeply about. To know that truly, and to be able to be sure that you've delivered on that, does require an assessment of the team and understanding of their skills right at the very start. So that would always be part of that first 90 days, is doing a team assessment, understanding their goals, their ambition, and their current skill set.
Mm-hmm.
That helps you understand, based on the strategy that you've been asked to implement, if you have a gap, a skill gap in the organization. Sometimes people can, like, incorrectly, in my view, read that as weakness, and they become worried for their jobs. So being a leader who offers reassurance and a path to develop, sometimes you can do that in situ. Sometimes it might need the team member to, maybe take some HubSpot training, for example, if it's a technology or an execution issue. Sometimes the skill gap might be broader than that and require a longer investment in time. So I'd look to, with the existing team members, to find out what they want to achieve in a year as well, and help them understand what we've been asked to do as a team and as a department, so they feel 100% engaged with and part of that journey. Usually I have no problems when the communication is solid like that.
Right.
And if CEO has also led with that strong communication and explained to the company and the department what the role of the fractional CMO is, usually it's very positive. And then if you hit problems, then, or you feel that you've a really poor fit, and it does happen occasionally, if somebody just isn't the right fit for that role, then I feel able and empowered to have the conversation with the CEO about what they would, like to do about that. Whether usually you want to give somebody a chance to improve, to progress.
Mm-hmm.
But if that has been something that's been tried and exhausted, then obviously you need to talk about other options.
All right, let's talk about one of those people then, okay? Not necessarily a trouble person, but imagine your best friend comes to you, Catherine, and says, Catherine, my kid graduated from university. They just got hired in their first full-time job. They're the most junior person in a marketing team. And that company just brought in a fractional CMO.
Yeah.
And so, like, Catherine, as your best friend, honestly, never really understood what you do for a living, but I've heard that term fractional CMO a couple times, so I'm figuring that's you. And my kid Googled it and said, hey, do you know anyone? And so I figured, here I am. So I need free advice. So you're at the leadership level of marketing now in your career, right? Not junior or middle. And this person is junior. Like, what advice would you give that junior marketer just starting out in 2024 about what they should be doing at the beginning of their marketing career to sort of set themselves up for success today?
That's a great question, Dean, and I love it, because being, as I am, a sort of continuous and relentless learner, I love it when I have people on the team, junior or otherwise, who want to learn. But my advice to a junior marketeer, if they are finding themselves working for a fractional CMO is to really latch on and watch and learn and listen and learn.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I would say is that fractional CMO is usually is top talent in that industry. So you already know somebody has walked through and been through many marketing cycles for lots of different companies and often lots of different industries. So you can definitely ask them to be a mentor for you. And in my experience, when people ask me to be a mentor, I'm actually really flattered and pleased to do that. And that would probably involve some like one-on-one time each week or every couple of weeks where you can answer questions, give guidance, or give feedback even if asked on specific situations. The other thing is, I think for a junior member of a team, it's an opportunity for skill development, because up until that point, possibly your university or college education has been, quite academic, quite, rather than
Right.
practical. So what you want to tap into is like, what skills do I need to develop? Even understanding the range of skills, because the marketing remit has grown immensely, and probably grown because of the numerous technologies available, the numerous social channels, and the numerous ways that people engage with brands and products and organizations. So that is an opportunity for skill development. And you can do that proactively with a fractional CMO usually, because we just spoke about that's often one of the things they're brought in to do to develop the team. The third thing I would highlight would be industry insights, because that's golden. Very often, a very experienced marketeer has worked, like I was saying, in multiple industries and often for multiple companies. And they will have gleaned and gathered experiences and learnings, the things that went wrong. They're just as valuable as the things that go right. And I think we don't spend enough time doing that. And I'm also a big fan of retrospectives and spending time investing in understanding if it went right, why it went right, how can we scale it? And if it went wrong, where were the areas we had the learning, and what might we try to improve that next time? It's not always possible to fix it. So I think having that knowledge. And then I think there's one other thing that I would like to highlight to that junior marketing person is the importance of starting to build a network of professional contacts, a network of professional suppliers and partners. Because I've found in my time as a fractional CMO, that's often one of the most valuable things you bring, is a proven record of suppliers you've worked with that deliver for you every time, whether it's a branding specialist, a digital, an SEO specialist. So being proactive with your fractional CMO and asking, do they have favorite suppliers? Why did they recommend them? Are there people that they would never work with? And just gathering that and keeping almost a little black book of insights and learning that you gather from that person, because it won't be static. And that could be, I think, some really proactive ways of working very positively and in a very engaged way with a fractional CMO.
Oh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Priscilla, so I'm going to ask you a question you've probably not thought of before about this junior person that just started as the newest marketer somewhere.
Mhm.
Do you think or know of, I think I know an obvious answer for part A, but not necessarily for part B. Is there anything, any sort of tool or concept or technology or form of marketing or whatever that they should absolutely, since they're brand new in marketing, 2024, they should absolutely lean into? And is there anything that they can safely ignore from now on for the rest of their life because it's never going to be kind of a thing in marketing anymore?
Okay, love the question. So I mean, I'm going to state the obvious. I think AI is here to stay.
AI, never heard of it.
Um,
What is that?
but yeah, definitely embracing those types of technologies and
Hmm.
seeing them as your sidekick throughout anything that you do, really. It should be part of your day to day. And then something that you can leave behind. MySpace? Maybe I'm too old and our audience doesn't even know what MySpace is, but um,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm going to throw some out, and you tell me if they're like still relevant. Do you
mhm.
think, as a brand new marketer, you need to care much about TV commercials or radio commercials? Do you think you need to worry about understanding how print advertising works? Do you think you need to understand how like direct mail works? Right.
Absolutely, yes to all of the above.
Well, I pity
Yeah.
these people just starting. Basically, they're supposed to learn everything that's ever happened in the last 150 years and can't ignore anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges I think of marketing is it's
Yeah.
so broad. There's such a
Hmm.
spectrum of things that you can do on the creative side, on the analytical side. There's such a mix of channels in 2024 that you can use. So navigating all that, I think is the
Yeah.
biggest challenge in marketing and for anyone starting off in marketing. But I would say, just to echo what Catherine was saying earlier, is just to touch all of those areas, as many areas as possible. Really embrace different channels, technologies, tools. Learn about as much as you can in the world of marketing. I would say even not just marketing, but biz dev and sales as well, because
Mm.
it's all so intertwined and then interconnected. So as a marketer, you have to understand what your sales team needs in terms of tools, what works for them, what doesn't. Put yourself in their shoes to understand how marketing can support them better. So yeah, not just marketing, but I
Yeah.
think that toolkit goes beyond. Um, yeah, absolutely.
There you go, kids. You got to learn it all. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot,
So,
yeah.
Priscilla, I'm gonna talk about a couple of things, and then we're gonna switch back to Catherine for it. Um, uh, the second thing is that I'm gonna let each of you, or ask each of you, to ask the other fractional CMO, because we don't curate guests. In fact, the randomness of who you end up paired with is part of the concept of the entire podcast. Right? Everyone picks their own time slot. You have no idea who's going to be in here, and no control over it either. So, in a second, go ahead and ask Catherine any question you want of another fractional CMO who happened to be dropped into like the same meeting or elevator or something with you. But before you ask Catherine that question, I have a question for you, Priscilla. And I'm not trying to be, I want to like preface this, okay? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being blunt. I am not a fractional CMO. There are easier ways to make a living. Why
Absolutely.
this?
Well, I think this is going to be a personal answer for me. I can't speak to every fractional CMO out there, but I do enjoy the variety of projects and companies
Hmm.
and teams. So for me, it keeps me on my toes. I'm learning so much on a daily basis. Yeah, I love touching all these different products and just working with so many different people. I'm a person who gets bored easily if I'm not, stimulated. So for me, working full time for one company for several years, it's great. It has its pros as well, but it excites me a lot more to work on multiple projects at once. And I would say also the flexibility. I'm currently in Montreal, Canada, staying at my parents' place for some weeks, and then I go back to
Right.
Barcelona. I might be in Mexico, October, November, and I think, obviously the world is a lot more remote today, but when you're working full time for a company, it's a lot more challenging to be a digital nomad. So I think,
Yeah.
fractional CMO is the way to go for me personally.
All right. And what question for Catherine?
Yeah, so I guess I'll ask you a question that I ask my the CEOs that I work with. Maybe a little bit of a test on their part because for me it's quite important to understand their answer to this. So I'll ask you the same, Catherine. Do you think a CMO or fractional CMO should be a generalist or a specialist?
Um, that is a good question, Priscilla, and I firmly believe that no fractional CMO is like a can be both. I think, well, I believe that every fractional CMO will have specialisms. Nobody will have a 100% fit across marketing technology, demand generation, SEO, all of the other areas that we are asked to like look after in the remit of marketing. So I think it's important to be realistic. And even when a CEO is hiring a fractional CMO, there are going to be potential gaps that can be covered often and better by people in the team. So there's no way that, say, most fractional CMOs are going to be in the nuts and bolts of, on page and off page SEO, like in the real detail that maybe you might need to be if you're optimizing for the website. But you definitely need a partner and you need to know where to go to solve the problems. So I think that's what the CEO has a right to expect. Not necessarily that you're specialist and able to execute across every single discipline a mile deep, but that you do know where to go to get the additional help and support you might need from time to time when the job requires you to be a mile deep. So I hope that gives you a reasonable kind of answer to that question.
Okay, so Catherine, we're gonna do the same thing, except you get to ask Priscilla your question in a moment. I want to do a different take on the like why do this job. Uh, Remember your best friend from earlier, her kid, just
Yeah.
you know. So she's decided that she wants to be a fractional CMO. And let's say she's like, only ever been an employee, never been out on her own. That's why she didn't know what fractional meant. She just thought all CMOs were regular employees. Right? Uh, how do you sell her on doing it? How do you sell her on leaving corporate and going out on her own and being fractional?
Well, here's how I would approach it. First of all, I do a little fact finding to understand what his or her motivations are career
She sees
wise.
your glamorous lifestyle and how you're jetting around the world and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of young people do want to lean into that remote working.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perfect entree into remote working if you can get the skills acquisition and the experience together that will make you valuable as a contracted part-time resource to
Mm-hmm.
not one but many companies. You also have to be willing to become a voice and be a trusted advisor
Right.
and everything that goes with that for leadership teams. So that does require, in return for the flexibility you get as a fractional CMO, which I personally love, it does require you to be pretty meticulous and persistent in your willingness to learn new things. And I would say, because I'm naturally a very curious person,
Mm-hmm.
um, I love learning new things. I love learning about business challenges, products, industries, new paradigm shifts, new technologies. Everything that's going on with AI now really excites me. It's changing at lightning speed. I get so many newsletters even through at the moment. So I would say to this mid-career or early career person who is looking to set themselves up as a fractional CMO, it is really important to be very mindful of your skills and continuously develop. It's important to be interested in the industries that you're looking to serve and to have a viewpoint on that and continue to develop that viewpoint.
Right.
It's important to be able and willing to sell yourself and on what you can do for a business, because people don't care what you've done, they care what you can do for the business. So I think that's a very important thing for a younger marketeer to remember. I have a great passion for marketing. I would not advise anybody to do it unless they do, because marketing is very much it's a moving feast. There's marketing technology, there's marketing, demand generation, there's PR, communications, social interactions, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year. There isn't really an off day when you're looking at how your customers interact with you. So yeah, focus on skill development, be interested in the industry that you wish to serve, be willing to learn how to sell yourself, be very cognizant of the value that you can bring, and be willing to upgrade those skill sets as you go through. Because in return for that flexibility and the wonderful variety of clients that you get to work with, you have to be realistic about where the inputs are coming from you. So that would be my kind of summarized advice for that early or mid-career marketer.
What's your question for Priscilla?
My question for Priscilla as another fractional CMO is, what would be the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who is starting to become a fractional CMO or has the intent to become a fractional CMO? What are the 3 pieces of advice for them?
That's a really great question. So I would say the first one is find your niche. There are a lot of fractional CMOs out there now, especially compared to when I started this 2 years ago. So find the gap that you're filling in the market. In my case, sustainability, positivity, companies that are doing good for the planet in some way, shape, or form, is something that really stands out for at least the clients that I've been working with. So that message to them is quite important, and it resonates really well. So find your niche is one of them, and that could be, I don't know, maybe you work in deep tech, maybe you work for the hospitality sector, very specifically, whatever it is, as your brand. And then that follows into my second recommendation is really work on your personal branding. So this could be putting together your own website, making sure that you're active on LinkedIn, and engaging, answering questions, comments. But yeah, making sure that your brand is strong, and that you're really putting yourself out there. And the third one for people starting out is tap into your personal network. So when I began reaching out to my immediate circle and then their circle and so on and so forth, was really important to get going. So my first clients really came from the closest people around me, and I was able to roll it from there. So tap into your network, especially those closer to you in the beginning. That's going to be really important.
That's great. Really resonates as well.
Yeah. So Priscilla, who should contact you these days, and how should they do it?
Anyone who is looking to make a huge impact in the world, and bring positivity to society, through their organization, through their efforts, can contact me through email, hi@priscillalavoie.com, or through my website, priscillalavoie.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find on the internet, so if you just Google my name, I'll come up, and I'd be happy to chat with anyone interested in looking in finding a CMO to help with their efforts.
And Catherine, how about you? Who should be reaching out to you these days, and how?
Startups and scale-ups,
Yeah.
or indeed mid-sized businesses, especially in the ed tech and HR tech space, leaders who need to either make a pivot or who need to prove product market fit or even launch a product, and who want to short circuit the journey to doing that. Because there is a process in helping organizations on that journey. And I am 100% laser focused on that. I have a great network of partners and suppliers, which will really help save a ton of time and they can get going straight away without the cost or investment of a full-time permanent CMO. So I'd love to hear from or work with anybody who is, on that journey, that growth journey right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, and email address or LinkedIn?
Yeah, they can reach me on LinkedIn. It's Catherine hyphen Stenson, as you can see it on the show there, and also on email at Catherine at neomar.co.uk.
All right, great. This has been really enlightening, I must say, especially the stuff about why do this job. That was great. And the advice. So thanks, Priscilla, again for being here. And thanks, Catherine. And thanks for watching. You're probably watching this on a clip, but just, there's lots of more clips. Go for it. And we'll see everyone next time. Thanks, folks. Bye.
Excellent.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Catherine.
Dean, thanks. Love